Welcome to today's episode of TransformHer. This show is dedicated to the empowering of African women on their leadership and entrepreneurship journeys. Our mission at TransformHer is to dismantle barriers, ignite audacity, and usher in a new era of inclusive leadership that is destined to drive prosperity and growth across the African continent. I'm Ifeoma Williams, your guide on this transformative journey. We'll be right back after this short break. On today's episode of TransformHer, the title of this episode is Beyond the Pages and Screen. And I sit with one of Nigeria's visionary creatives, somebody I describe as a polymath, Mrs. Gbemi Sasore. From event management into publishing, into documentary production, and so much more. And she's a woman's champion. I'll tell you why I said that in a minute. For now, Mrs. Sasore, welcome to TransformHer.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's a rare privilege to have you on this show. I'm super excited, and I honestly do not know where to begin. Your story is one that must be told. From Giggle Zone to main events, to Koramo Publishing, to world-class documentaries on Netflix. Wow. And now to your 7th year of Q-Fest. And I must say, congratulations on your LABAF recognition.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Let's dive right into it. The first thing I want to ask you about, I mentioned, ladies, that she's a champion for women. Did you know, or now I'm going to tell you that Mrs. Sasore was the 50th president of the International Women's Society in Nigeria. This is a woman champion through and through. I want you to start from IWS. And oh yes, I don't want to keep talking. She's also Nigeria's ambassador to and for the Olive Baden-Powell Society. I want you to start from IWS. Tell us about your strategies for leadership as the 50th president of IWS.
Okay, you must bear in mind, IWS is a 1957, that brings it to 66th year. We're in our 66th year, and I was the 50th president. So that's quite a few moons ago, not many, but few moons ago. I'm now a trustee in that organization for women. But I recall very vividly as, when I was president, that a strategy that I found myself operating under was born out of the fact that the society is made up of older, younger, mixed ages across board of women, very young and to quite elderly. And so I was everybody's president. And so from our culture, dealing with older people, and our culture dealing with younger people, and the knowledge that I have that things constantly change, I had to marry both mindsets and to push the ideals of the association forward. And so I learned to celebrate the achievements of the association thus far, 50 years on, because there are not many associations in Nigeria that have lived 50 years, let alone 66. And so we celebrated all the achievements and where we're starting off from, and looked to the young people to take us through to where we are today and beyond.
That's fantastic. So what we try to do on this show is present practical insights. I mean, knowledge that people can apply to their everyday life. So it's not just another talk show.
Right.
And I know it's going to be super exciting with you. So the first takeaway for me is the fact that you celebrated the old. You recognized and respected the input of the women who were there thus far. And then you called on the young to take you into the future.
Precisely.
That is fabulous. That is commendable.
Thank you.
Wow. I just wonder, I called you a polymath for many reasons.
Okay.
When I read your story, apart from knowing you, It's just mesmerizing. I'm wondering how this woman started from Giggle Zone, which you'll tell us about in a minute, transition to main events. Giggle Zone, I'll have you know, organized birthday parties for children, 10 in number, 20, and as many as 4,500 for MTN.
Right.
And this amazing woman did all that. I'd like for us to come from the angle of Giggle Zone, main events, publishing, the host and convener of QFest. Please tell us this story. Why, first of all, did you decide on, and I ask you this because you hear banding of the word now, serial entrepreneur. People say, oh, I do many things at once. Almost like they have a conglomerate. Nothing wrong with that. But I want to know, was that it for you?
Not at all. Bear in mind that as at the time I reached the Giggle Zone period in my life, I had gone through, working for people here and abroad. I'd gone through different companies. I had a company called Window Views where we did interiors, curtains and whatnot. So I'd, started my journey working with people and for people and being an employer as well of labor. So by the time it got to Giggle Zone, I was then beginning to start my family. And I realized there was a void. When I was growing up in Nigeria, there were lots of stuff for children to do with and the family to interact together. But I found that as I was coming to start my own family, besides the church bazaars, which have even disappeared, kind of sort of taken on a new look. Right. Besides the church bazaars then, there's nothing else for us to do. The cinemas were gone, Roxy and all, they're back now. But at that time, early 90s, they were non-existent. So I thought, what am I going to bring my children to? My friends who had started having children had to go away on holidays before. So anyway, that's where Giggle Zone was born. I used to have fun fairs, but in having the fun fairs and getting all that revenue, I shared my profits with charity because that's my first consciousness is to give back to the needy and raise, eradicate any plights that women and children may have. So my association, Zonta International, IW, International Women's Society, all of them reflected the child and the woman. And that's what I'm most passionate about, being what I was raised to understand best. So from Giggle Zone, we would do all the end of year parties for the corporates, Total, Nigeria, Accenture. We were the go-to person. We'd build sets, we'd get all the newest inflatables because I used to attend those fairs every year. The thing is, I start a business out of what I enjoy the most so that I don't tire whilst I'm at it. So this was born out of the fact that I was going to start to have children. I started having children, and until they were well into primary school, and I think starting secondary school, that was my main passion, was Giggle Zone. And from Giggle Zone, doing children's events, large and small, I got into events proper. The 50th and the 70th birthday parties, name it, we were doing. So it is with that, because we set up, my husband and I set up a company, and my sister-in-law set up a company to publish books, because he was an avid writer. And so I would overlook the running of that business, the publishing business. And the publishing business. And we started getting more, I started getting barraged with more questions and problems to solve and whatnot, and expanding it also. So I said, look, listen, this is no longer a hobby, it's a business. And so I main events kind of took the back burner whilst I faced Kurama Publishing.
Wow.
And so, yes, because it had grown to that and it needed my full attention. And so I gave it all I got, moved both of them under one roof, but one having a smaller room than the other.
Wow.
And it started to grow from there. And then our kids, one in particular, my son, the older son, he came up and said, Dad, this is an excellent book, Platter of Gold, Possessed. Why don't you do a podcast? That's what we listen to these days. Not many of us read anymore. Not many of us. So we said, my husband and I, when we were, pondering on it, we now said, why should we do a podcast? Because that's not really that wasn't really our thing then. Let's just do a docu-film. Not a documentary, but a docu-film. So it's not journalistic reporting, but expose sort of thing, where lots of people who lived through that time, let's point out things that they didn't really know, things that were glossed over on the pages of the magazines and newspapers. So that's how we went for The Journey of an African Colony. And so knock, 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 Netflix, would you like, no. How many people in Nigeria watch documentaries? We said, this is not a documentary, it's a docu-film. It's a little different. They're like, our records or our numbers don't show, So we left it. Channels aired it, and boom. I think Arise also aired it, and boom. And when we weren't expecting it, we heard this little knock on the door, and it was Netflix.
Wow.
And that's how we got on air on Netflix.
Wow, fantastic.
So, yes.
Wow. So we like to, as I said earlier, draw out practical insights. And so we'll take a short break and we'll be right back to complete this very enriching interview.
Thank you.
Stay tuned. Welcome back. Just before we went on our break, Mrs. Sasore was telling us the story of how she became a polymath, a true visionary in Nigerian society, being a creative, a publisher, a docu-film producer, and so much more, the convener of Q Fest. What I heard from everything you said to me, Mrs. Sasore, was the fact that you actually were, you might not have been intentional, but you saw when it was necessary, right, to make the solutions you were providing a business. And so Giggle Zone was born out of the time you started having children.
Started my family.
You started your family, and you wanted for there to be things for children to do, just like you had growing up. You likened it to the church bazaars. And then Kurama Publishing, first off, was you overseeing this company that your husband and yourself and your sister-in-law had set up.
Yes.
And then it sort of morphed, and you saw the need to make it, well, that's excellent.
Right.
How did you think this up? I mean, as a creative, how did you think to express this story or these stories across various mediums?
Okay, first of all, it'll be absolutely untrue and unfair for me to take all the glory and all the, accolades that you so very masterfully pour on me. No. My husband, Olashukwu Sasore, wrote those two books, Possessed and A Platter of Gold, after many other books and before many other books. He's very passionate about history and a very detailed person. So it came very easy for us to publish, came very easy for us to film. It came very easy for us to push, the narrative out there, and open up avenues for us to do more docu-film and now feature films, in progress. So I think that we have a very wonderful team, and we're blessed by co-researchers, because he did a lot of his research, co-researchers, co-publishers. It's an entire team, friends. We had lots of friends, Aduke Gomez and other people who were interested in this project that we were doing, and just lent a hand, one way or the other. They just gave it their all as we did. I guess it was infectious. So it was easy for us to come up with a sterling product. And it has to be captured for generations to come, to be able to relate. You don't know how it'll inspire them. So that's what drives us for the Kurama Writers Prize. And that's why we said unpublished writers. So you know that they've never been published before. They may have written before, but they haven't been published. And therefore, no real light has been shown on them.
Right.
Yes?
Right.
So we do that. And we've done so for 7 years now, where you tell your story and independent judges pick a winner, winners and the winner.
Right.
And we help them put it into book form, publish it, and they're published writers. And I suppose that sort of helps them do more if they're that way inclined, or they don't see it as a daunting, oh my God, that's not for me. That's expelled. So we have more people archiving our history through fiction, through fact. That's what we want to do at Kurama. And then we'll take it. If you're not a page turner, there's still a lot of page turners out there. If you're not a page turner, watch the screen. Most likely you'll see the gems on screen from Kurama and other filmmakers. And if that doesn't work, we'll do it on podcast.
I want to pick up from Q-Fest. So you've answered my question. I asked you, I said, is it about serial entrepreneurship? No, it was about evolving. So we saw how there was Giggle Zone and then main events, still solutions, but we knew when to grow. Ladies, we knew when to grow. And for the few good men watching. And then we went on to Kurama Publishing, and your son made this suggestion of podcasts, and you thought, no, let's make it a docu-film. But you said something very poignant, which is that we need to understand the medium, right, for the audience that we're speaking to. So there is a 360 media wheel. There's social media, there's on-air, which is TV or radio, there's print.
And there's a page turner.
There's a page turner, right? And you made the very important point of meeting people at their playground. So I'm an avid reader and writer as well. But I know that the younger generation would rather audio visuals. So it's really commendable, you know, how you've been able to adapt stories across the various medium. But what is very remarkable is how you have kept the Q-Fest for 7 years. And I want to thank you, first off, on behalf of the unpublished writers who you bring into a forum, put through the rigors of a competition that only makes them better. But I want you to reveal, Mrs. Sasore. I know that you have battle scars. It hasn't been 7 years of smooth sailing. Tell me, reveal your battle scars. That's what the women want to hear.
Battle scars?
Yes, yes.
Oh my goodness.
What are the challenges?
Well, there are quite a few. There's the finance section. There's the, oh my God, battle scars. It's just that I find that maybe this happened a lot with entertainment, with events. People who came to meet me at that field rose. And it was not because they were doing anything different from what I was doing. Yes, God made it happen because I'm an avid believer of God's will and plan in my life.
Right.
But I think it is because my priorities, which is a priority, is my family. No regrets.
Right.
My children, my husband, my home, my friends, dear friends, and even frenemies, because they pushed me ahead. They helped me jump. Yes. Yeah. You know, like I use them as hurdles. I jump over them and I still get ahead. So I thank them too. You know what I mean? So I have no regrets whatsoever. Absolutely none. And so scars, maybe I could have done this better, or I could have employed that person when I didn't. Maybe I should have given this person a chance, but because of my personal with that person, maybe those little things. But maybe when I come back on set, I would have given it a thought. I'm not sure that I can call anything I recall anything that made me go, ah, not at all. And you know what? When you know the God you serve, just when I thought, oh God, I've lost that book, 3 others come in its place without me even moving.
So on a final note, Mrs. Sasore, give us one word for grandmother. Another word for grandmother.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Grandmother. A grandmother is the biggest blessing so far for me, is being a grandmother.
So would you say the word is blessing?
I would say the word is blessing, joy, happiness.
There's so many words.
Reset, way forward, legacy. Oh God, grandmother is so many words.
We're definitely going to have you back. It's been phenomenal speaking to this visionary on this episode of Transform Her. We saw how she told us her story about evolution. So this thing about serial entrepreneurship, I say my take from this episode is live in the moment. Get what you will from that stage in your life and then move on to the next. Another important takeout is it is possible. It is possible to do all of these things, and there are different phases in your life. Please stay tuned for the coaching segment. Welcome to today's coaching segment. We continue to discuss resilience and flexibility. This is the 3rd part in a series on the topic of resilience and flexibility. Like I said in the previous episodes, resilience and flexibility are muscles that you train and consequently build. And so I asked the last time, what sort of leader are you? We're going to pick up from there. How and when to adapt your leadership style to different team dynamics and business scenarios. I've couched it this way because when I ask what sort of leader are you, I'm basically saying that you can be a combination of the 3 types of leadership. Your main consideration should be the situation and the outcome that you desire. And so for the transformational leadership style, the best time to use or adopt this type of leadership style is in situations requiring significant change or innovation. When the team needs to be inspired and you need to share a vision with your team, that's when you adopt or put on the hat of a transformational leader. The key adaptation strategies for you to note is that you must emphasize the vision, right? And you must share a big, vivid and inspiring picture. The next strategy is that you must foster open communication and encourage creativity. Let there be a feedback loop. You must allow people express themselves as a transformational leader, and you must be open to suggestions from your team. As a transactional leader, it is best to use this sort of leadership in a structured environment with clear rules and goals. So when tasks are routine and you require consistency, most importantly efficiency, is when you adopt the transactional leadership style. What are our key adaptation strategies for transactional leadership? First, you must implement clear rewards and consequences. Secondly, you must focus on organization and performance metrics. So as you have a reward and a punishment system, I advise leaders adopting the transactional style that you focus more on the reward. Because even as a transactional leader, you want to encourage performance by the rewards that people can look forward to. Finally, as a servant leader, it is best to adopt this leadership style when you want to build a strong and supportive team culture, when team members' growth and well-being are priorities. So you see, you must always be a servant leader. So it could be a combination of the 3 or a combination of servant leadership and definitely one of the other 2 leadership styles. Your key adaptation strategies for servant leadership is that you must prioritize the needs and development of your team members. You must also lead by example and foster a collaborative environment. So you begin to see an overlap in the leadership styles. Because the transformational leader is one who encourages open communication And the servant leader is one who leads by example and fosters a collaborative environment. The only way that you ensure collaboration is if there is effective communication. So you begin to see that truly, it is true, that leadership is down to effective communication. How well do you communicate with and manage your team? No one man is an island. I've heard it said so many times. You can only go as far alone, but you'll go farther with your dream team. If your team doesn't key into your vision, how do you expect to drive the vision? So the point to note as we round up this segment on this episode is that effective leadership involves flexibility and understanding the unique needs of your team and business context. Adapting your style enhances your team performance, morale, and overall success. Remember, if you want to go far, go alone. If you want to go farthest, go with your dream team. It's been a pleasure coaching you on this episode. Until next time, goodbye.